Ross McIntyre, Technical Director at the Orpheum Theater, and welcome back to a long-awaited Technically Speaking with Ross McIntyre. Today I'd like to discuss a very common element of our work here, which is the set pieces, set design, and the execution thereof. Now, the Orpheum Theater is a vaudeville theater, and theaters built during the vaudeville period, especially theaters like ours that were designed for vaudeville tours, where the show would move from one town to the next, usually on the railroads. Theaters like these were smaller in the backstage area, off to the side there by where the ropes are controlled, and then conversely on the other side of the stage next to our loading room. And the reason we need to leave this room backstage is so people have room to move around, change set pieces, and perform various duties that have to do with running a show. But to save as much space as possible, the wings are often the first things to go when designing theaters with economies of scale in place, if you will. And so with the Orpheum being much like other theaters of the period, most of the set pieces used in the early shows were either painted canvas drops, big full stage sheets of canvas that would be painted or sometimes printed in the later years. Or you would have something which we still have here at the Orpheum, which is our old wood-framed painted flats. Here you can see our painted scenic flats, the back of it anyway. This is one of our forest flats, has a forest scene painted inside. These pine boards are probably the straightest that can be found in the Western Hemisphere today. And the Twin City Scenic Studios is the company that created these flats for the Orpheum in 1916. As you can see, it also still bears the union label for the Brotherhood of Painters, Decorators, and Paperhangers. And these flats served the vaudeville era well and were squirreled away here backstage for the 50 years that the Orpheum was a movie theater. And they were rescued by Prairie Players Civic Theater in the 1980s during the renovation period. And we have them here on stage for occasional use. We try and use them as much as possible because they are an old asset of the theater, but as old as they are, they're rather delicate. So we often eschew using them for more durable goods like our cyc. The cyc, or cyclorama, for which it is short, is a thin piece of muslin fabric, bleached or unbleached, that is hung on one of our battens here, as we call them in our fly system. Now the fly system functions, as you will have recalled from previous technical speakings, functions to lift and lower set pieces in and out of view on stage. Once unlocked, the rope can be drawn and the set piece comes down. Now the cyclorama can be lit in ways that make it appear a certain solid color, or they can simply have shapes projected onto them. It can even be used as a projection surface for digital media. Now, another version of this type of set piece, a thin piece of fabric, are what is called a painted drop. And painted drops are very commonly used by our local dance companies to have a full detailed backdrop, but one that can be flown very quickly out of sight, takes up very little space, and can be mailed to the theater the day before they arrive. Now, modern shows at the Orpheum Theater often utilize larger set pieces on stage. We do have quite a bit of stage for being a small stage, and this is our original stage. This is the same stage that Harry Houdini and the Marx Brothers played on, the likes of Performing Arts Academy and Choral Dynamics people treading the exact same boards. Now, set pieces for an Academy show, for example, are enormous, unit sets that sit often in one place and don't get moved on and off stage because of those small wings we have. And so oftentimes for those shows, if a large set and smaller pieces and units are added or removed to change time and setting, place, things like that. And the flats are used sometimes, but for shows like that where we want to utilize more of the floor, it often comes in handy then too to have the front of the stage we can extend out into the audience. The stage extension is an extra 5 feet we can add onto the front of the stage to extend the capacity of the show to reach the audience. Some shows prefer not to use a stage extension because they would prefer to have more room in the front row of the audience. For example, when the Knox County Fair Queen pageant is held, they have the judges sitting at tables in the front row. But for shows like Performing Arts Academy and Choral Dynamics, who need that extra space to extend them out toward the audience, it's a very important part of their shows. At the end of the day, theater is about finding creative ways to tell a story. and we're always so excited to see what cool ways people will utilize our stage to tell their stories next. And thank you for joining us here for another Technically Speaking. See you next time.